Joining us now, Elaine Parker, Chief Communications Officer for the Job Creators Network. Elaine, wow, taxes, tax cuts, but then we got Democrats that want tax increases like crazy. Great to have you with us, Elaine.
Thanks for having me this morning, John. We had a little fun with our poll this week and talking a lot about tax cuts as well as some of the tax increases that are being proposed by some of the Democratic congresspeople. And we basically asked how people would feel if they won $20 million in a lottery and what they would want, what they would think was fair to pay in taxes. And interestingly enough, when people are having to decide about giving away their own money to the government, they don't want to give away as much. And in fact, only 11% of Democrats favored paying 70% on that 10 millionth and above dollar.
You've got Democrats now, like we're in the middle of tax season, and we had this huge tax cut that everybody's now starting to see the benefit of. And as you're doing your taxes, and I've said this, Elaine Parker, for a year. I've said it for a year. You go to taxcutswork.com and see exactly what you're going to save. But I've said the big lie is going to be exposed between January and April 15th when people start doing their taxes and they're like, wow, I saved $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And they're going to be like, the media was telling me I was going to pay more and I'm paying less on the same money I made, right? So we know that's coming. Now you've got Democrats that want to go 70% tax bracket. You've got Elizabeth Warren that says, elect me president and I'm going to tax everything I can find, including your wealth. I mean, whatever that means. I'm going to tax that too. Even though you were taxed to get that wealth, now you're going to be taxed just because you have it. This is insanity. Dig into some of these polls. What are they really saying here, Elaine Parker?
Well, it's amazing. We have done a lot of polling, and we keep seeing a lot of different numbers. Like I mentioned about this 70% tax increase that's being proposed and floated out there. Last week we saw headlines that said that most Americans favor a 70% tax on the wealthy. We've done various polls, and the reality is that we've done a poll of 1,000 Americans. We poll 1,000 Americans every week, and 94% of Americans said that a 70% tax rate is in fact too high, and a majority of them said that that nobody should be paying over 30% in taxes. Wouldn't that be fantastic if that were the case? The reality is most people, 3/4 of them, prefer free markets and individual freedom over more government intervention. And we keep seeing this populist movement in Congress towards socialism. And that's going to hurt our economy. And I think that people understand that, but this populist movement continues this march towards socialism. And what makes our country so great is our system of free enterprise and the ability for anybody. You can come from nothing. And in this country, you can become anything. You can become the President of the United States. You can become a congressperson at 28 years old. You can become a successful business person. There's no limit on opportunity in this country.
Let me read back to you one of the quotes you had. You said, according to our survey, it's clear that Americans are far less likely to support tax-the-rich schemes when they imagine themselves as wealthy. When I read that, I've used this example, Elaine Parker, many times. And I'm a little bit older, so you have the benefit of living through different things. You go back to 1972, George McGovern, Democratic nominee, comes up with this scheme that he thought could get him elected. And he said anybody making under anybody making under $50,000, you elect me president, and you're going to get a check for $1,000. Anyone making over $50,000, you're going to get a special tax to redistribute income. And McGovern did the math, and he said, well, there's a lot more people making under 50 than making over 50. This was in 1972. This should get me a tremendous amount of traction. Guess what happened? He won one state and the District of Columbia. And when they did the internal polling, here's what they found. many people, a vast majority that were making under 50, said, well, I'm striving to make over 50,000. So I don't want to be taxed when I get there. In the meantime, I don't need a handout. I just want to get over 50. I just want to keep making money. That was the mindset of Americans in 1972. Has this changed?
You know, there is a move towards socialism. There's a move towards the idea that socialism equates to social good. And the business community, Republicans, conservatives, free market supporters need to figure out how to make the moral case for capitalism, because there is no other system out there that has been the biggest creator of wealth and prosperity that the world has ever known, and it has lifted people out of poverty all over the world. It allows people to reach out and grab a hold of the American dream. And, you know, we talk about how big getting their piece of the pie. Well, you don't have to take someone else's piece of the pie. The pie just gets bigger in our country because of our system of free enterprise. And it allows this country and the people in this country to give back in a big way. And I'll give you an example of that. Our founder of Job Creators Network is Bernie Marcus. He's the co-founder of the Home Depot. And his success came from nothing. And he started the Home Depot at 52 years old actually, and has grown this company. They employ over 400,000 people. But what that success has allowed him to do is to give back to this country in a huge way, supporting cancer research and autism research and building the Georgia Aquarium where thousands and thousands of people go every year. If we start taxing people at 70 and 80%, we're not going to see that kind of giving because, you know why? We don't see it in other countries where they have high tax rates. But this country, people are very charitable, and that's what our system allows. And they do it. It's done through hard work and entrepreneurism and success.
Well, that's the American way. I mean, that's what people believe in. That's the principles you're raised on. That's why you work hard to get ahead. I mean, that's kind of the American way. So I find some of this stuff to be just shocking. See, but you're polling, and I'm going to go over more of your poll because I think it's very telling. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're with Elaine Parker. Elaine is the Chief Communications Officer of the Job Creators Network. And for more information there, what you want to do is go to taxcutswork.com. Taxcutswork.com. That's going to provide you the opportunity to see exactly what the Trump tax cut on the federal level is going to enable you, how that works, and how much money you're going to save. And as you do your taxes, I've been getting texts from people, Elaine, all over the place telling me, wow, I saved $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on basically the same income doing my taxes in 2019 from when I did them in 2018. So all of that is real. 35% of your poll respondents in this poll said it was harder to figure out their payroll taxes than their cell phone bill. I don't know if you've ever tried actually to decipher your cell phone bill, but it's written in a way that you can't. So when you look at this, and then you have other polling that says, how would you rate the U.S. economy today? And between good and excellent and fair, we've got almost, 82%. Speak to that.
Absolutely. It is true. It is hard to understand your cell phone bill. And there is a lack of fiscal knowledge in this country, and that's part of what we do at Job Creators Network is provide educational materials to help people understand fiscal policy and right down to their paycheck and where their money goes on their paychecks and who that FICA guy is on their paycheck taking a lot of their money. As far as we are seeing optimism in this country, and we're seeing it because of the policies of the last 2 years. We've seen over 5 million jobs created. We've got the lowest unemployment rate since the Vietnam War. We've got the lowest Hispanic and Black unemployment rate in history. Women are entering and starting new jobs at a high rate. Lowest unemployment rate we've seen in 60 years for women.
Right.
These are incredible numbers. And as far as people and their taxes, today is a pivotal day. It's January 31st. Today's the day that everybody should receive all of their W-2s, and they do have an opportunity to go to taxcutswork.com, and they can actually calculate what their savings is for the entire year between 2017 on their W-2s and 2018. So if everybody sits down with both of their W-2s from each year and they enter in the information into our calculator, they can actually see the savings. And an average family of four is going to save about $2,900 for the year. And the great thing about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it was passed in 2017, December of 2017. In February of 2018, we changed the tax withholding tables so that Americans could start that savings right away in 2018.
Right.
So they've already begun saving throughout the year because they were getting to keep more of their own hard-earned money throughout the year. And so while they may not see a huge increase in their refund check this year, it's because they've already been getting it back all year. That's what's so great about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Instead of having a one-time year, they get to expand their pocketbook all year long.
That is one of the things that has gone by the wayside. But in this poll that you've done, and just so everybody knows, we're with Elaine Parker. She is the Chief Communications Officer of the Job Creators Network. More information, go to taxcutswork.com, taxcutswork.com. They sanctioned a poll which was conducted by Scott Rasmussen and HarrisX, called the HarrisX poll. You can get that by going to scottrasmussen.com/HarrisX. A couple of the things that came out of this, and I just want our listeners to see this as clear as they can. Here are a couple of the questions. How would you rate the U.S. economy today? And 45% said excellent or good, and 14% said poor, 37% said fair. So 45% of respondents, and this is not partisan, said the economy is excellent or good. Next question, is the economy getting better or worse? Better, 29%, worse, 30%. Now, that was the one number that I really couldn't understand because the economy is doing fabulous, so I don't know how they get worse here. They also said, how would you rate your own personal finances these days? Excellent and good, 50%, and fair and poor, 51%. Are your personal finances getting better or worse? Better, 31%, worse, 17%. To me, that was the key question here and answer, Elaine Parker. Are your personal finances getting better or worse? Better, 31%, worse, 17%. Are you interpreting that the way I am?
Well, I mean, we're coming off of, obviously, the shutdown, and there was a lot of negative news out there as a result of the shutdown. And we actually asked our members who are small business owners, was the shutdown actually impacting them? And a wide margin of them came back and said, it's really not. And the people that were, mostly affected were in and around the D.C. area and the federal workers. And while obviously our heart goes out to people who didn't get a paycheck for a month or so, the vast majority of the country wasn't being affected by the shutdown. But there was a lot of negative news around that. And as far as folks who feel like the economy is doing well, I mean, we looked at also some of the Gallup data that came in, and 80% of small business owners say their company's financial situation is doing fantastic. So we are seeing good numbers. We are starting to see more job creation, and like I said, over 5 million jobs have been created. And those are fantastic numbers. We actually have more jobs available than people to fill them.
That is one of the statistics that is going by the wayside, that right now we have more job openings than people to fill them, which is also, Elaine Parker, driving new hiring levels for disabled and handicapped people, for felons who have been released from prison after doing their time. I mean, the best thing you can do about prison recidivism is have somebody come out, do their time, pay their dues, and then get a job, and then assimilate back into being a productive member of society. And when you see the record number, Elaine, of handicapped and disabled people that are being hired I mean, you think about that. You think about being disabled and then being able to have a job and feel that you're able to overcome whatever problems that you have and go to work every day. I mean, these are things that drives families, drive lives, and you listen to some of the naysayers, and they just blow this off and talk about 70% taxes and whatever they're doing, taxing everything you have that moves. It's crazy. These tax cuts are going to come to people in the next 90 days, and the big lie that Democrats, with their friends in the fake news legacy media, have been saying that the tax cuts don't favor average working people, that is about 90 days from being totally exposed for the fraudulent narrative it is, Elaine. 90 days away.
Absolutely. It's like bizarro world when you hear the economic numbers every month and the good news that is coming out. I mean, December was over 300,000 jobs created. And then when you hear these proposals on the news from Democrats in Congress wanting to raise taxes to 70% or any kind of tax they can find to hurt job creation and hurt small business owners, it just doesn't make sense to increase taxes when the economy is doing so well, and we're seeing record revenues flowing into the Treasury, and if the revenues are up going into the Treasury, and we're still not paying down our debt and not able to meet what the government needs to spend, then I think we might have a spending problem, and they might need to look at things on the other side. So I'd love to hear them coming out with proposals about how they're going to cut spending versus increasing taxes.
Well, Elaine Parker, you're going to be waiting a long time for that. We're out of time. Thanks for being with us. More information, go to taxcutswork.com. That's taxcutswork.com. We want to thank Elaine Parker for her time today, Chief Communications Officer for the Job Creators Network. Elaine, thanks for being with us.